All right. You know who else is annoying?
Mm-hmm.
This unhinged judge in New York, Engoron, just fined Trump $350 million, barring him from running businesses in New York. Like, you're going to have to bar anybody. No one's going to do business in New York. What a clown show. Viva Frei is with us, a good friend of the program. You can catch him on Rumble and YouTube. And, of course, Viva and Barnes Law for the people. Check out that podcast, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Viva Frei. David, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, Richard, I've been sitting on my butt for 8 hours, day over day, listening to this Fani Willis motion to disqualify hearing. It's wild.
Okay, yeah, I want to talk about Fani as well. But let's do the Fani one first. Poor Fani, the DA from Fulton County, Atlanta, who has this vendetta against Trump. She impaneled the grand jury, indicted him. Then she hires her lover at $700,000 a year to prosecute Trump, but they're spending the money on lavish vacations. And she's not looking good on the witness stand. And I swear she was wearing her dress on backwards yesterday.
People have pointed that out. I got to go back to the tape because apparently I think she switched her dress around at a given point where the zipper was in the front at one point. Either way, when she came onto the stand yesterday, she came in like a bull. I don't even know what the analogy is. She came in like a raging bull, unhinged, coming to take the stand after her attorneys had been arguing for a half an hour to quash the subpoena that was issued to compel her to testify. So I genuinely think that she got the better of her and defied what her lawyers wanted her to do. And she runs down, jumps on the stand, comes off as a raging lunatic, a demanding, entitled, self-righteous, arrogant, condescending, terrible human. And she testified so badly yesterday, by all accounts. She was scheduled to take the stand again this morning, and her attorneys say, "Nah, we're done with her. No more questions." It was an abject disaster.
So I was watching a little bit of the trial, and the lawyer was asking her about cash that she has on hand at home, and she said, "Well, I always have cash on hand." And her father came onto the stand. That was weird, too. Her father was testifying about her, and he taught her to have a cash box in the house. And she actually admitted she took money from her campaign, cash from her campaign, and kept it at the house. What is this? What's going on here?
It is what happens when lies catch up with you. So bear in mind, the basis of the motion to disqualify is that she entered into call it an illicit, improper relationship with the man that she hired as external counsel, special prosecutor to prosecute Trump. And that the dates as to when they started dating are the critical point at issue here, because if they started dating after she hired him, it's less culpable in theory, except that they've admitted by all accounts that she renewed his contract and increased the base hours that he could work on the file once they were admittedly by all accounts in this amorous relationship. And so the idea is that there's an appearance of impropriety here because she hires a guy that she ends up stooping, pays him a very lucrative contract out of this. At the same time, she's going on lavish vacations, cruises, Napa Valley, wine tasting tours with Nathan Wade, who by all accounts is paying for it because it's on his law firm's credit card statement that they are expensing these trips. And so the only way that she can argue out of the impropriety of this relationship where she's benefiting financially from the contract that she gave to this guy with taxpayer dollars is to say, I paid him back for the vacations. I paid him back for what would otherwise be clear and undeniable gifts. Well, how did she do that? Cash. I mean, that's her defense. I always keep cash in the house. My father always told me that a woman has to have 6 months of cash in the house. and where did she get it? Oh, I don't have any withdrawal slips or anything. I just accumulated it over the years on a salary of $180,000 a year. And that she alleges she repaid her boyfriend that she hired, contracted with, and gave a raise to in the context of their relationship, that she paid him back with cash that he basically admits that he never disclosed. So he's expensing the trips on the one hand. He's allegedly, even by their own accounts, taking this cash as a personal benefit back from her, if we believe it. But the bottom line is it's a filthy lie. And it's the only way that she can get out of what would otherwise be a clear conflict of interest, where she is benefiting from the contract that she's giving to her boyfriend to prosecute Trump.
who is a personal injuries lawyer who has no experience in these matters, and now he's prosecuting the president of the United States. If she gets disbarred or at least disqualified from this case, what happens to these indictments in Fulton County, at least?
Well, so my understanding, because I've asked Robert Barnes this question too. I'm a Quebec attorney, but I think I could piece things together. They disqualify her. They would bring in another district attorney from another county who would take over the case, to be determined if anybody in their right mind would ever have initiated such a case and or continue it. So you get an external a DA from another county, disqualify all of them. This whole team is tainted, as the pun would have it, based on the trial. Get her out. Another independent DA from another county comes in and says, I don't want to pursue this. This was not just a stretch in law from the beginning. It was ridiculous. And no ordinary DA who didn't campaign off prosecuting Trump, who didn't have a vendetta against Trump, would have ever initiated this file. So in all likelihood, if there's a substitute and they disqualify her and bring in another DA from another county, I would imagine they'd withdraw the charges and stop this bogus persecution from the get-go. And I think the judge is going to get to the right decision. A lot of people in my chat, we had 25,000 people watching live today. Wow. For 8 hours watching this. I mean, I guess I made it as entertaining as I could. People are saying, the fix is in. The judge is excluding some evidence that, on the basis of privilege between Nathan Wade and his alleged lawyer, who they threw under the bus this afternoon. I don't know if you saw that, but I think the judge is going to get it right. And I think it's so patently ridiculous on his face. Anyone who watched this, even the highlights or my summary, would know that this is an absolute gong show. And they have easily shown the appearance of impropriety warranting disqualification in order to preserve the semblance of justice.
All right. Well, we'll talk about another gong show when we come back. Judge Engoron in that civil fraud trial fining Donald Trump more than $350 million, barring him from running businesses in New York. Viva Frei is with us, back with more of our conversation right after these. We're back with our good friend, Viva Frei. Viva and Barnes Law Podcast. You can find that at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Just finished streaming 8 hours of live stream covering the Fani Willis trial. But I want to move on and talk about what just happened in New York. And the judge there, Arthur Engoron, just hit Donald Trump with his biggest punishment to date, and fining the former president nearly $355 million for, quote unquote, fraudulently inflating the values of his properties. He's also barred from doing any business in New York. So let me see if I understand this. He goes to a bank. He's taking out a loan to build another property. He's borrowing against the value of his, other buildings. He's going to try and get as much of a big a loan as he can by telling them, the banks, this is how much my other properties are worth. And they may agree or disagree, or they're saying, well, it's not worth 300 million, it's worth 280. He goes, no, I think it's worth 300. They go back and forth. He gets the loan. He pays the interest. He pays the loan back. In the meantime, he's employing thousands and thousands of people. Nobody gets hurt. And now he's being charged and he's been convicted of fraud. Who are the victims?
Richard, there is no sense to make of this case. It's corruption through and through, and it's a judicially corrupt judge. If anybody doesn't know who Arthur Engoron is, there's a video 8 years old of him giving a speech to a bunch of journalists talking about how he has the tools to basically dictate the outcome of a trial. He can use collateral estoppels, prevent people from making arguments, summary judgments. This ruling, it's not a surprise to anybody because Trump was already found liable. It's a civil matter, though, basically proceeded like a criminal one. They already found him liable for fraud on a summary judgment. The judge, by way of motion for summary judgment, concluded that Trump committed the fraud. So the entire, I think it was a 6-week trial, was only on the amount, the damages, the punishment, because he had already been found guilty on summary judgment on a bogus, I try not to swear on your channel, on the most bull garbage ruling you can imagine. They accused him of artificially inflating the values of his properties. The banks came in and said, we would have loaned him the money if the properties were worth half what he said they were. We do our own due diligence. We would have lent him the money regardless. We were competing for his business, not being duped into doing business with him. He was a shark. He was a whale. I forget which one they used. We wanted to do business with him. They also accused him of artificially inflating the properties for insurance purposes. Well, that only becomes fraud if you actually make a claim. Otherwise, you're actually paying a premium based on exaggerated worth of properties. But if you don't make a claim, you've just made a bad investment in terms of what you evaluate your properties at. It was a foregone conclusion that this was going to happen. The judge had every tool under his belt to get to this conclusion. And it's institutionalized communism. And I'm saying it's sort of like tongue in cheek, but not really. You look back at communist eras and you say, how could millions of people have starved to death? And it's when the government basically took over and nationalized private industry. The government doesn't know how to farm. They take over farms, they screw it up, they run it into the ground. The government doesn't know how to do business either. And so they're going to try to basically steal Trump's property, prevent him from doing business, put out of work however many thousands of people Trump employs in New York because of a political hack of a judge, from a political hack, Letitia James, of a prosecutor who campaigned off going on after Trump. And they've come to this decision, which has to get overturned in appeal. I suspect it's going to be stayed until there's a decision on the appeal, because you're not going to liquidate assets and basically put someone out of business and create a situation where even a successful appeal cannot remedy the injustice of the garbage decision that we just saw today.
Do you think this is going to cause what businesses are left in New York City? I mean, all the smart money's getting out of that hellhole. But is this going to cause a further flight from businesses? Who would want to do business in a place where there's a total breakdown in law and order?
Well, nobody. I mean, this is why when Trudeau froze the banks of Canadians, any reasonable investor is going to say, I'm not going to a communist totalitarian regime where there's no due process and willy-nilly freezing of bank accounts. People are going to flee. They've already started fleeing with their bodies. They're going to start fleeing by the corporations en masse from that corrupt, to quote The Simpsons, pee-pee-soaked heckhole of New York. In the same way that Elon Musk is taking his business out of Delaware because of judicial activist judges, and he's going to go to Texas. And good luck, Delaware. You said you were business friendly. You are run by corrupt judicial activist judges, and it's going to hurt your bottom line. It's going to happen to New York if it's not already happening, and it needs to happen. Get out of New York, take your bodies out of New York, take your monies out of New York, and take your businesses out of New York.
Well, that $350 million may end up just being pocket change for Mr. Trump, because the SEC there in the U.S. has just approved a merger deal with his social media company, Truth Social. And his stake in the post-merger company is valued at today's share price nearly $4 billion. So Donald Trump gets the last laugh yet again.
Well, but Richard, don't forget about the other decision out of New York where E. Jean Carroll got her. What did she get? 85 give or take $1 million. Yes. So yeah, but they're licking their lips because they think he's got the monies to pay for this. None of these decisions should withstand an appeal. And if there's any justice, even the semblance of justice, none of them will withstand an appeal.
Viva Frei on YouTube and Rumble, Viva and Barnes, Law for the People. And you can check that out at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. All the best. Have a great weekend. Have a great family day.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you.